Hello, welcome to Beyond the Questions podcast, because every great conversation starts with a question. Hey, we are life coaches and we're having conversations about life, and we're so glad that you've joined us. We anticipate another great episode, so buckle in because we are ready to go. Let's get started.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jason, and I am so excited to be here with you hosting this inaugural podcast for Beyond the Questions. I want to welcome Coach Ericka, Coach Kellie, and Coach TQ to the podcast. So it's great to be with all of you guys today. So thank you for being here. Before we dive in, I want to have a little fun today. So coaches, I'm going to give you your choice of two questions that you can answer to kind of get us kicked off today. So first one, when was the last time you questioned your life choices? Like halfway through a drive-through line or on a Monday morning, or if you want something a little different, if your why about life was a person, would it be cheering you on right now or would it be giving you the side eye?
Oh man, Jason. This is hilarious. I will start. So this happened to me just the other day. I went through the drive-through and they kicked me out because I started asking so many questions. They had confusion. They're like, wait, am I ordering from you? Or are you ordering from me? They weren't really sure what's going on. They're like, lady, you started asking questions prior to you getting in the line. So you can just go. But then it's really hard because you're in a drive-through, you know? There's cars in front of you, cars behind you. And I'm like, haha, you're stuck with me.
I got to know, where were you at a drive-through line?
You know, in and out. It's a really long line.
All right. Well, at least it wasn't Chick-fil-A where you were trying to figure out if you wanted pickles or no pickles, and that's really your only choice. So it was a little bit better.
Well, for me, I'd say it would be, if it was a person, I think they would be like the little cheerleader on the side of the field trying to cheer me on because I'm doing something totally different, totally new, and you can't do it unless you have cheerleaders, backing you up. So my person is like just a go-getter cheerleader kind of person. Yeah.
It's awesome. Man, there are a lot of times where I have questioned my life choices, but one in particular, it was a while ago. There was this bike ride. I used to live in Houston, from Houston to Abilene, Texas, which is like 300 something miles or so. Okay. And I didn't know anything about bike riding or anything like that. I knew I needed one. And so I went and got one that I thought that I was just going to use. Well, it was not a road bike. It was a mountain bike, which if you've ever been riding is terrible for going long distances in the heat. And so there I was, the only guy on his mountain bike on this road, huffing and puffing and wishing that I had thought about things better or gotten somebody who knows a little something about cycling before I did any of that. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, well, as we were preparing for this, I have so many long stories I could tell, but the podcast isn't about our life stories, right? But my wife and I went to Costco this morning to get some things we needed, and there's always the two people who are going to mark your receipt. And so they were tied. Like the line was equal length. And I was like, we're already on the right side, just stay on the right. Oh man. I think 12 people went through as this lady had conversations with everyone in front of us about what was in their Costco cart. Oh, have you tried that salmon before? Is it any good? This lady's like, oh, it was on such a good deal. I had to try it. I mean, you just never know. And I was like, I know you all want to talk, but I need to get home because I have a podcast I'm about to be on. So get out of my way. So yeah. So anyway, but hey, it's good to just kind of start thinking about the choices we make and the consequences those choices have. And Kellie, back to your cheerleader on the sideline. I love it. Like there are things we make, but that's a choice you made, right? To start this new career, to do this new thing. And when we do that and we aren't aligned with who we are or what we value, we begin to feel this disconnect. And so that's kind of what we want to spend this podcast talking about. So when you think about your own why, we're all coaches here, right? We've decided to take up this mantle and help people walk alongside. Why are you doing that? Or how would you describe your why in that situation?
Yeah. Well, for me, really, it was because it was from life experience. I was in the corporate world my whole career, 30 some years, decided that I was just kind of done with corporate. I was done with my functional area, which was marketing. And it took me forever to kind of figure out what to do next, and well over a year. And, during that year, you start to lose your self-confidence and your belief in yourself. And then you're wondering who you are, and you have identity issues. So for me, my why was, if I can help other people get through this transition faster and, not make the mistakes I did, then that kind of became my why. That was my charge. I'm like, I'm not going to let anyone else suffer like I did for the last year or so. So yeah, the why was from personal experience for me.
What about you, Ericka?
So, if I could look at this just a little bit differently, what if when thinking about our own why, we kind of just look at our lives and think about just being? Maybe it's just doing the next right thing, which can take some time in listening to ourselves, right? Maybe you make some wrong choices. Well, that's not what we're here to talk about today. That's a whole other conversation. Yet, maybe it's just going and helping your neighbor. Maybe they lost a spouse and they've been living alone and they just need a meal. I don't have anybody to eat a meal with. Maybe that was my why for the day. And I keep basing what I do off of those types of things and moving forward, while also knowing sometimes I'll move forward and it might be the wrong thing. And so I have to reassess again. Instead of kind of like putting so much weight on what my why is, maybe focus on being. And to change the note a little bit, because this can be confusing to kind of change it, what if we had a conversation about what we like to do or what we enjoyed doing? And if we kind of went in that direction, while understanding, yes, we all need to make money. Yes, most of us want to do good. But if we kind of went in that direction, wouldn't the conversation look a little bit differently?
Give me some more. Explain what you mean.
So we're spending a lot of time, and I feel like this finding our why right now is a very hot topic. Knowing your purpose, finding your why. Yet, what if we just take some of that pressure off and think about like being each day? Saying like, okay, I'm a mom. What do I need to do for my kids today? What do I need to do? Maybe it's simply sitting down and having breakfast with them. Or when they're asking you, Mom, can you do this? Mom, can you do this? Mom, can you do this? Listening to what they're asking for. Maybe our why sometimes is right in front of us, yet we're so focused on what's my purpose in life that we lose like track and vision of what our why really is when it's staring at us in the face.
I can hear that and understand that desire to kind of, just kind of be, which is a very super peaceful spot if the things that are in front of you aren't too crazy. So I know for me, like the last year has been like, this thing's breaking down in the house. This person in my life needs some help. All those things are really, really important. Like there wasn't one of the things that I would look at and go, I shouldn't do that, because they're either a role, a responsibility, whether it's being dad, helping fix the house, going to work, you name it. Okay. But there have been some times where I have found myself doing some things that don't kind of fit in what brings my heart alive. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
So
yeah.
I really love being with people and talking with them through things, right? And which is part of the reason why I got into life coaching, right? This is why I'm trying to start this thing. But I will tell you the beginnings of this, the whole setting up your website, all the things that prop up this job or this work of trying to get with people, that's wearing me out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just tough on top of the other things. And so, and if I'm not careful, the things that are happening to me, I will be what I think I need to be in those, and miss what's going on, kind of how I'm wired, kind of like, man, what really, uh, the purpose in my life that really kind of gives life to me and to others, not just to myself, but it kind of helps the world around me and my heart, And so I
Yeah.
feel, I heard what you're saying. So I'm feeling like that tension of, yes, I would love to just be, but man, sometimes, the being gets done to me, and I got to figure out how to follow where I'm, the compass. So, and sometimes things need to go.
I was gonna say, I think you need a guiding light though too, right? I mean, it's good to be in your day, and I mean, I think that's so important. People don't take time to think about what's happening right in front of them every day because you do get caught up in life. But then I think it's important that you have that kind of guiding light or star or something, that you're shooting for in life too, to give you direction so you know that the actions you're taking every day are leading you somewhere and leading you towards a goal. So I think they're both important for sure.
Yeah,
And
and Ericka, I would say I don't think you find your purpose until you learn how to be. Like, I don't
Mm.
think they're mutually exclusive. I think
Mhm.
that as we're looking at it, over the last year, I've been in a major transition. Much like TQ, my life has turned completely upside down. But I'm loving it. But what I'm loving about it is who I get to be as I do the things I do. I still get to be here for my kids and be the dad they need. I get to invest in people who are curious and who are asking questions, and I get the chance to ask a question. So part of who I am is curious by nature. I would say my number one value is curiosity. And
Mhm.
so now I get to live out of that value every time I meet with somebody because I get to just ask them questions. I don't know the answers, but as they discover them, as they see them, they get this chance to like realize, oh. And so when we talk about purpose or why, I do think there's a lot of it tied to that being. And until we understand who we are, or we can identify some of those values, we're always going to struggle with our being.
Yeah, and
Well
I
said.
want to say too, and I think it's what you're saying as well. Kellie mentioned she loves to help people, and just like having that in the back of our minds, right? Like helping people, yes, we do need to have boundaries, like TQ was saying. We need to be able to put boundaries in place to protect ourselves. Well, if when making those decisions going forward, that little bit of like, okay, this is what I like to do. I like to help people. I'm going to go forward with this coaching decision or this decision to be a fireman or whatever it is, knowing that, okay, this is something I enjoy and I like to do, and it's going to fill me up. And then I get to be who I am while also serving in the way that I want to serve and finding my purpose and my why while doing it.
Yeah, I don't think we get to just sit back and like hope it will be written on a wall or a voice the sky will part and someone will tell us, oh, this is where you should be and what you should do, right?
If
Like,
only.
yeah, right.
That
Yeah,
would be awesome.
They wouldn't need coaches though, or therapists, or they wouldn't need people like us if
right.
it was that
Right.
easy.
Send me an email and tell me where the money's coming from. That's what I want to say. But yeah, but I mean, it does take work on our part. And that's a great in line with that discussion about who we are and what we do and kind of our value or purpose that we're bringing to the things we're doing. Have you ever noticed personally, this is for you personally, times when your actions or energy didn't match your purpose? Like you were doing something you thought was your purpose and action and energy didn't match? Or if you want to talk about it from a positive, what are some times when it really lined up and you were like, this is my sweet spot?
Now we're getting deep. I mean, I think I know like when I was in my former career, I thought I was in my sweet spot and I thought that's what I was meant to do. I mean, obviously I did it for almost 30 years. So I felt like I was in that sweet spot and that was what I was meant to do. But then as you go through life, experience different things, get older and things change, then kind of, sometimes it changes and you get on a new path too. And then you start and find a different, calling or whatever you want to name it. But then you find something else that you want to do. And, then you find yourself on a whole different path. So I think you can have multiples, which is a positive, I think, to me.
I agree. And thank you for sharing, Kellie. Going back to your question, Jason, I think it's about listening to ourselves, listening to our body and our mind. And the ability to do that can take some work, and maybe there needs to be time and processing old traumas or wounds or things like that because we are so disassociated. I actually was a nurse for just over 10 years, and like Kellie, I thought that that's what I would do for a very, very long time until after having 2 kids, it changed. And I wasn't sure how I was going to change to be home with them. And I truly wanted to be home with them. Yet I can vividly remember. So for other circumstances, part-time positions were being handed out rapidly to nurses because nurses were just readily leaving the field. That's not why I wanted to leave the field. I wanted to be home to raise my children, to be the one teaching my children, not organizing somebody else to do it. And I walked into basically an interview meeting thinking I was going to get this part-time position, and then that was going to allow me to be at home with my kids more. When they told me no in that interview meeting, everything in my body was telling me, this is a closed door. I am not supposed to be here anymore. I could feel it. And I still had to work through that, then making the choices of like, okay, well, how do I leave this? I've been in this career for this long. This is something I thought I wanted to do for however long. But during that time, like, it was my body, and I just knew it was that feeling that came over me. So going back to like knowing, like when we're not showing up in our why and in our purpose, like the ability to be able to listen to what we're saying to ourselves, which can take a lot of work to get there. And just a snippet is just like Jason and TQ. I have had a major transition. If I looked at my life 5 years ago, none of you guys would recognize me. Completely different life. And I had to do a lot of work through that. During sometimes I didn't know how to listen to myself anymore. And it took a lot of work to get back to being able to listen to myself.
Something you said there, Ericka, and Kellie, you kind of said it. So I'm going to jump in real quick, TQ, before you go on there. But it's interesting to me that so often we put our purpose in line with our job.
I knew you were going to say that.
And we've all talked about it. It's not
So
just
true.
YouTubers recently said it, but have you ever had that moment where you knew you were doing something that you were supposed to be doing and it wasn't tied to work? Or maybe it was tied to work, but you were like, I don't care if they pay me to do this or not. I'm going to do it.
I can give an example to that. So for me, one of my hobbies and much of a healing thing is I ride horses, and I am very grateful to do that. It is definitely a passion of mine, and I just genuinely love it.
Do you race them, or are you like standing on them, or just going on trail rides?
Yeah, I stand on them. I can do cartwheels while standing on the top. No, I used to
Fiery
show
hoops.
horses when I was younger. Now I ride for the enjoyment of it. My horses know how to do a lot of things, from roping, going on trail rides. I actually, one of my horses, I can lay him down, and I want them to be broke. That way when my kids ride them, I'm not worried about it. And I have 2 boys, and let me tell you, the other day they were in the rafters in the barn, swinging from the rafters and jumping on that horse. So
I see a road trip.
I was like,
That's awesome.
Can we turn the podcast into a Wild West movie? I'm just curious. Can we make that
yeah,
happen?
right? Yes, we need to. Well, the other day I got to share with my friend's daughter who loves horses just like I do. And she needs some time with the horses. And so we spent hours just doing horse stuff. And even to where, and I say this about how my horses are, and they are all horses and things can happen, yet there is a healing sense that can happen with horses. And I knew she needed alone time, just being alone with the horses. And so I made up an excuse that I had to leave. And I asked her, are you okay to just stay here by yourself with the horses? And she's like, yeah. And I just gave her that time. And this, and going back to like tying it into our purpose, how that's not my job, right? I'm not getting paid to ride. I'm not getting paid to love making my horse this way. I'm not getting paid to share that passion with someone else who needs that. So knowing that too, like our purpose, it goes back to that being, right? And seeing where I find my purpose playing out in my life.
I appreciate the question though, Jason, because for years, that's what I struggled with. That was my whole identity was my job. I mean, it wasn't until just recently that I kind of got out of that. I think sometimes you just live by default and you do, maybe you go to college and then you get a job and then you climb the ladder and then it's just, you don't stop to really look and find what maybe your why or purpose is. You just get on this default path and go. And so it really wasn't until recently that I kind of got off that and thought, there's more to life than the job. And that does take some looking inside and figuring that out, because that's hard to just walk away from one identity and start over and find a different reason. So no, I appreciate the question.
Yeah, I appreciate that question too. I think my purpose, or at least one of them, and there may be multiple, but I really love to be a part of transformation for people. And the way I've seen that, it's been all throughout my life and in different ways. I've got my high school yearbook, and which should be dust because that was a long time ago that I was in high school, but it's still holding up. So I don't know what they made paper out of back then, but it's still holding up. When I looked in the comments, there were a bunch of comments about, oh, thanks for the conversations that we had. Those were cool. We did this and that and the other, And so older me is looking back and going, oh man, that's been a part of me at least since high school, and it's just kind of carried through. I do music as well, especially lead worship sometimes. And one time in particular, I'm at this camp, this youth camp, and I'm really I'm done with the singing piece and I'm just playing background while people are caring for each other, praying for each other, and all this business, right? And I could just see as people were talking, there were tears here, there were high fives over there in the corner, and this, that, and the other. And I could just sense that, and then I was a part, kind of setting the stage up for things to happen in people. I didn't have anything to do with those conversations or what was happening there. But what I did get the sense of is that, man, I am helping to facilitate movement in people's lives. And it moved me so much that when I got done, I just kind of walked out, went out into the camp a bit, and I wept, I cried because it was just moving. Because man, so you're saying you were in that spot where you're like, yes, this is exactly what I need to be doing, how I need to be doing it. I love this. And if I didn't have to eat or sleep or do anything else, this is all I'd be doing, And so, but I think it has taken trying a lot of different things and then looking back because, I don't know that I would have been able to articulate this as well a decade ago or 15 years ago. I'd have been still kind of trying, well, I kind of like doing this, and I was still in discovery. And at this stage in my life, there's still discovery, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of history to be able to look back at and go, here's a theme in my life that I didn't orchestrate. I just lived it, or I was just being, as you talked about earlier, Ericka, just being kind of helped to illuminate all that. And I'm going, wow, this is what I'm like, which sounds weird to say. I'm talking about myself and I'm like, oh, surprised, right? But to be able to look back and go, oh my goodness, this has been kind of unfolded right in front of me. And I found that it's not connected to any particular role. It's been in a lot of different areas. So
yeah, I really appreciate you guys sharing those stories. I think that's the key to purpose. If we're really going to get to our why, it transcends a role. And it really speaks to the core of who we are. And it doesn't matter the role, we're going to live out that purpose. And so I think sometimes that gets us stuck too. But so one of the things as you guys were talking, it feels like, and I know this isn't true, so it's a loaded question. It feels like I could just go sit in the woods and think about myself and figure out who I am and what my purpose is, right? But I think for me anyway, I'll say I think a lot of that gets formed in community. it gets formed when others come around us and they help us process some of that stuff you were talking about, Ericka. So I'm curious, who have been or how have you invited community? Maybe that's the better question. How have you invited community or others into your discovery of your why?
I think if I look back to this transition, we'll say over the last 5 years, it was recognizing one, I needed help. So I sought help in coaching, I sought help in therapy, also through a lot of trial and error, recognizing and having discernment on who I could trust as my closest friends. And some, painfully, I let go. And it wasn't that they weren't a great person or we didn't have similarities. It just was that they were not helping me through things I really needed help through. And that was hard. And during that too, like a big lesson I have learned and continue to learn, right? We are the story that we tell ourselves. And we do need to listen to those close people that are in connection with us about what they're saying about us, right? Because if we're sitting out there alone in the woods and maybe we're hurting, maybe we've been through a rough time. And so all the things that are playing through our mind are not good. So that's exactly when we need to bring other people in to help us through those moments to say like, no, you are good. You do have good in you. You are doing this. And being able to listen to their voices and that just connection drawing us together. And then maybe they come pick me up out of the woods, They're like, hey, you've been sitting here a while. Maybe we should go on a walk.
I think anybody can do this alone on our good days, right? It's easy on the good days when
Right.
everything's clicking and things are moving forward. We can be like, I don't need anybody else. And the truth is, man, the ugly side of that inner voice sometimes, and we do need that person to come and. I loved your image. Just hey, is it time to leave the woods? Let's get back to it.
Let's go to the barn.
Let's get the barn, jump on
Leave
some
the
horses.
woods. We're going to the barn. Well, I think too, sometimes your community can be people that you don't expect, right? Like I know when I was changing my whole career path and trying to do something different and reinvent myself, I was so afraid to tell people what I was doing because I'm like, what? They're going to think I'm nuts. Like I'm totally changing at this age. Like, why would she do this? And so and TQ, you and I talked about this because we were coaching each other at one point, and I'm like, I think I'm going to launch, but I'm afraid to launch like my whole new endeavor. And, finally one day I just got fed up. I was on my computer. I'm like, well, here we go. I don't care. And so I just went for it. And like the people that were commenting and giving me like, thumbs up and congratulations, you can do it. I never expected. So sometimes it's people you don't even think are listening, but they are. And we forget that, we might have a team behind us we don't even know about.
Yeah, I think my entire network has changed in the last year. The people who are, there's a few anchors, maybe 3 or 4, but man, for the most part, it's like the people who are walking with me in this entrepreneurial journey are not the people who have walked with me in other journeys. Obviously, my wife is still here. God bless her. She's a saint.
That's great. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
She's the saint. I'm a pain in the butt. So I'll tell you that that'll come on every podcast. But yeah, but I mean, you don't realize, and man, sometimes they don't realize like how their words or their encouragement are so beneficial to you too.
And Jason, you said, who have you invited?
Yeah.
And I immediately thought of people that did not invite, who invaded. And it wasn't, these weren't bad. Like sometimes the community that's around you is not helping you find your purpose. Matter of fact, they're derailing, there's condemnation, and sometimes that's in your own house, right? And so we got to have some discernment about that, especially if it's not helping us to grow or move forward, right? But I remember little Twan, I'm at church and I'm supposed to be leading singing, right? All the little guys, you get up and all the people get, and you start to sing and you don't really lead any worship in that. You just start singing and everybody starts the song. You're just standing up there, right? So that's what's happening. And I do that and I'm kind of feeling okay. And this is probably elementary school, like young Twan, right? And this lady comes on. Oh, you need to also know my dad was in the military. He was a recruiter for the Air Force, and I loved planes, and I couldn't wait to be a fighter pilot. Okay, so that's on my heart. And so
Were
I'm
you going to
getting,
be Maverick?
man, if I could be Maverick now, I would still. And so, um, and so I'm walking out, and I remember this old lady saying, "Good job, you're going to be a preacher." And I was, oh, thanks. But in my mind, I'm like, what in the world are you talking about? I am flying fighter planes. I am going to be in F-15s taking out the bad guys. Again, if I could do that, I still would. So that's still a part of me. But, you know, that was one of the first people to start speaking into the kind of thing that I might do in ministry or helping people. When I say ministry, I mean either at a church or not, however helping people looks like. And so people have kind of come along and kind of said, I see this in you. And they may not have said it that way, but they saw something and they acknowledged it and told me about it. And then I kind of evaluate, man, does that resonate? Does it not? And sometimes it didn't resonate. Then I find that it really did later, even if it didn't resonate in the moment.
Yeah, that's so great. I love the invaded part. And the invaders are tricky, right? Because sometimes there are people who are going to say things that in that moment we don't want to hear, but in the long term they're speaking truth. And sometimes the invaders are just people we don't want to hear, right? So like, how do you navigate and discern that? So as we're kind of coming to a close, guys, we're kind of coming up against time here. If someone's listening today and they've been like, well, these guys have it all figured out, right? They're like the professionals, right? They're listening.
Sorry,
They think
They have not been listening if they
I'm
say
sorry.
that, by
I
the
was
way.
gonna what
All these-
podcast they're listening to, but it's
That's
not
right.
this one if they think
right.
we're figured out.
We've told the good stories. Our kids are like jumping on horses. It's great. They can figure out like, this is amazing. That guy's going to be Maverick. She's got a Wild West show in her backyard. What else can we do? And they're like, I don't have any of that. I feel disconnected. I feel out of alignment. And man, I'd love to live there. I'd love to get to that point where I could feel like I had some purpose or had some alignment in my life. What's one small step that you would encourage them to take or encourage them to think about as they kind of figure that out? Hire me cannot be the answer.
Wow. Well, I was going to say, and this is again a small thing, but it's kind of talking about your dreams out loud with a close friend or colleague or companion or somebody. Because I think sometimes when you talk about dreams out loud, you can make them come true.
Mhm.
And you think they're impossible because they're in your head. But if you get them out of your head and you start to talk about things, they can become reality because everything starts with your thoughts, right? You can manifest something with just thinking about it and trying it. And so I think talking out loud about some of the dreams maybe you put aside years ago could be a first step.
Great. Well, I'm just going to acknowledge for all of us, Jason, yep, there's 4 coaches here. Information will be included on this. So that is one option, just so y'all know. Just saying it here
Shameless
from the
plug,
horse's
love it.
mouth.
Shameless plug.
While, I mean, I think it goes off of like what Kellie says too. There's a lot of independence that is spread, right? I'm so independent, and in an odd way that makes separation. Not saying that we can't do things for ourselves, yet finding somebody that can walk with you in the good and the hard times is a really important thing.
I'd add 2 things. First, and some of this depends on where you are, like how much life you've lived already. Okay. If you're young, whatever young means to you, if you're young and you are going, man, I don't know my purpose, I would say relax and just try stuff. Go ahead and start discovering. There'll be things that you're like, oh, this is amazing. I love this. And there'll be things where you're like, yep, that was definitely not it. and all that I think is super helpful. The other thing, if you're on the other end of the spectrum, which is where I am, and what I did before going into life coaching, I started to think through people that I had met in life who knew me well, or I've spent significant time with them. And I just asked them kind of pointedly, hey, how have you seen me be a benefit to you or to others? And can you just share that back, and try to let them know I'm not looking for a bunch of pats on the back. I'm really trying to see what themes arise, what things like, oh, there was a lot of this or a lot of that. And that really kind of helped me to go, okay, these things have come out. I agreed with them, and it helped me go, okay, well, if these are true, then maybe life coaching is the thing for me. So that's what I would suggest.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of good shared. I struggle to add to it and not just sound redundant, but I do think that, Ericka, you got us there earlier, but I think it's that pausing to think about who you are. Like, I firmly believe that every one of us operates every day out of values. Now, you may not have a clue what those values are, but every decision you're making is being guided by those values. And if you could just pause long enough to think about what is guiding my decisions. And the old saying is your checking account or your credit card balance and your calendar are going to tell you those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's guiding that? Where do you find life? And if you could begin to take money out of the equation, but if you could do that, what would you do? And I think you find a lot of purpose there. And all of a sudden our career disappears because we're doing it no matter where we are. Well, I want to thank you guys for some amazing feedback, some amazing stories and opportunities to just kind of share today. And to our audience, I want you to know we didn't get there today. We ran out of time, but like this discovering your why and knowing your purpose isn't just about making you feel better. When you understand that, you show up to lead and to love and to care for your families and your friends in ways that you and they never dreamed possible.
Yeah.
And so if you need some help, as Ericka said, shameless plug, we are all coaches, would love to walk alongside of you in that.
Absolutely.
But even if not, we want to see everyone flourish, thrive in their life. And we believe that as you kind of align your life to your purpose and your why, you're going to get that. So thanks for tuning in today. Have a great day, everybody. And we'll see you back in a couple weeks for the next Beyond the Questions.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Beyond the Questions. Be sure to subscribe so that you can stay up to date concerning future episodes. And if you would like to connect with any of the hosts on Beyond the Questions, their contact info is linked in the description below. Thanks for stopping by, and we will see you on the next episode of Beyond the Questions.